Same old trouble, villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome once again to Graphically Novel. My name is Josh Wasta, a.k.a. Fallout Fury, and with me, as always, is my Razor Fist.
Oh.
My endless need for my father's approval, which I will never get. It's Bear!
Oh my god. My brain just, completely locked up on Razor Fist because I had a completely different image in mind.
You have to pay extra for that.
Right? That's a Patreon event right there.
That's an OnlyFans Patreon
right?
event.
And with us, as always, the lovely and talented, our Aquafina, Ms. Jennifer Howland.
Instantly improves any show that she's in.
You're welcome.
We make a good team.
You make a team.
That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. And, I get to introduce our guests, which, this guy, he's all right.
Oh,
he's
thank
all
you.
right. He's, he's okay. This is Mr. Dan Schaeffer, who is one of my very best friends. Thank you for being on the show again.
That's sweet of you to say.
Kind of our go-to for martial arts shows.
Yeah, you have been. That's interesting.
Really?
Yeah, well, Deadly Class.
Yeah, Deadly Class. I guess that qualifies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why, because my martial arts skills are a bit rusty. Or in fact, rusty.
I think it was because
non-existent.
I think it was because Jenn has mentioned that you have watched martial arts films with her.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm happy to do this stuff.
Awesome.
Martial arts. If I need to be your martial arts expert, I will be your martial arts expert.
A Russian martial arts expert? So, speaking of martial arts movies, we are doing Shang Chi today. I know that we have a lot to say about this movie, so I want to talk about the comic first. We did Brothers and Sisters, which actually came out just a few years before the Shang-Chi movie. Actually, a couple years before.
Like 1 year. It was like 1 year. It was a pandemic year.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And it was meant as kind of a slight retcon to the character and to introduce people to him. Some interesting things before we get into this. Shang-Chi's history is messed up. Like his actual publication history, because Shang-Chi was originally the son of Fu Manchu.
Fu Manchu, yes.
The actual fictional character Fu Manchu.
The actual fictional character.
The actual fictional character.
The real fictional.
Yeah,
the real
so
Fu Manchu who didn't ever exist.
Which was not a comic book character, but an actual book character, famous in the 50s, 60s, 70s. So Shang-Chi was originally his son, and then they lost the rights to Fu Manchu, and so had this character that they had to retcon his father into something else, and that's where they came up with this character and the Ten Rings / the Golden Dawn / the
Five Deadly Weapons.
5 Deadly Weapons, which we get into today. So yeah, just a really kind of fun history for a character that I think I had heard his name. Never. I could count it on one hand.
I know literally nothing.
Yeah,
Never had I heard this character's name.
Before the movie?
Right.
Yeah.
Before the movie was announced.
Same.
Yeah.
I had seen him in stuff because I had done... He pops up in a lot of Defender stuff. Him and Iron Fist pop up a lot together.
I have things to say about that.
About Iron Fist?
No,
Oh, okay.
about, it's so close to, to Iron Fist, to the Defenders, but then jump over to DC, and it's like, why do Marvel and DC have to do the same things and just call it different things? I mean, they're doing the same thing.
That's a big 70s, 80s thing. Like, if something was a new character that was popular, you could guarantee that they would do it on the other side.
Right, but it's like, okay, we have this, shady dude in some Asian country that's training a vast army of warriors, and he is undying, immortal. Yeah.
Well, if you got a formula that
Ra's
works
al
for
Ghul.
one,
So
it's
what
gonna
you're
work for the
saying,
other.
is, I am Ra's al Ghul. Shout out to John Barrowman, the greatest Ra's al Ghul
Ever.
So Dan, I think all four of us had not read this before. So what did you think of the comic?
So the comic was very interesting because I didn't read it until after I had seen the movie. And so my first reaction was, well, this is not really like the movie. How is this connected? And then the Shang-Chi in the comic book, in Brothers and Sisters at least, is just a very different character. He's not
Yes.
I mean, to some extent, he's still trying to hide who he is, or at least not be who he is supposed to be, like who he was born to be, which is definitely very similar. But he's got connections, like he had been an Avenger, he had been all these other things, right? He was not the sort of unknown that I expected. And then the action in it is fascinating because instead of 10 rings, there's 5 weapons, and I mean the whole story is I guess I liked it. I enjoyed it a lot. It was just completely unfamiliar and unexpected. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. It took me a little bit to forget about the movie when I started reading the comic, to be like, okay, this is a totally different thing. Get into it, because there also, which I failed to mention, there was a period of time where the Mandarin was the stand-in for Fu Manchu, and so Shang-Chi was the Mandarin's son, and now he's the son of this completely different guy who had a brother and started the five deadly weapons, which is, it's just, it seems so shuffled around that I find it pretty interesting. But you had to establish, okay, for real this time, this is really, really 100% his background before you could drop a movie based on the dude. So
I guess. I mean, it seems to me in some ways like they developed the story for this particular run of comics almost in parallel with the development of the movie character, rather than sort of as a springboard. It's like, they had to fit the movie character into the MCU, which meant adding the 10 rings and the Mandarin that they had already
clean up their mess,
teased in previous movies. But it's like there's enough in this comic book that is echoey of what's in the movie, or vice versa, that it's like they sort of came up as two different alternate universe branches of the same kind of story, even though that's not what they are. I mean, in the fiction.
Right, which we'll get into more when we get to the movie part of it. But I find Shang-Chi, and Jen and I discussed this when we watched. I like the reluctant hero trope. Sure. I find that just a fascinating, fun, and Shang-Chi is very, very good at that in both the comic and the. Although they frame it more in the comic as destiny instead of the call to hero.
That is true. But in the comic, he's also a lot more, I guess, sure of himself is maybe the way to think about it. Like, he knows who he really is, and he's had all these other contacts, like with the MI6 and having been on the Avengers. And it's like he doesn't like it's not that he's reluctant. It's just he's done with that. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be doing this until his sister gets involved, right? So.
Right. I feel like in the comic, you're right. I feel like he's like, okay, well, in fact, he's working in this bakery, and the old woman he's working for knows that he's a superhero.
Right.
And she relies on that to generate business.
Right.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Which I think is great. So
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Move on.
I was about to move to Jen and say, what did you think about the comic?
I liked it. It was a pretty quick read. The format was a little weird that I was reading, but
digital copy. Find the actual graphic novel, not the individual.
Yeah, because it's
really?
the speech bubbles and pictures get split across. Yeah, so it's a little hard to read.
Yeah, they were kind of doing it page by page or frame by frame almost. Yeah,
but then the speech bubbles were dipping outside of the frame, so half of it would be on one page and then half of it would be on the other. But that's fine. I read it. I liked it, but I don't. I understand it's comic books were serial, so you had to have like this happen so that you could continue the story. I'm not sure how I feel about the sister, declaring herself Shang-Chi mortal enemy and dipping just to show up later, I'm sure.
Right. Well, yeah, I found parallels between that and the movie as well.
Right.
For the same reasons, really?
Yeah, for the same reasons. But, in the movie, it's, uniting against a common foe.
Right.
Right.
Perhaps gaining the closeness that you had previously.
Yeah, the sister in the comic book is very different in a lot of respects from the sister in the movie, right? I mean, she has some of the same kind of origin issues, but she's just so much more like bitter and focused on hating in the comic.
She desperately needs therapy.
Yeah.
Everyone in the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
that's undoubtedly true.
Yeah.
They could all use a good round of talk
and
therapy.
There's only one superhero therapist. His name is Doc Samson. He must just be busy every day. I mean, Tony Stark himself is a full-time job.
I'm sure.
What about the therapist that Lucifer sees? Oh, that's DC. Sorry.
Wrong line.
Also, TV show, not the comics. Bear, what'd you think of this comic?
I, again, also started reading until I realized that you had the full graphic in there. Started reading the weird.
Oh, you gave him the full graphic.
I mean, it was on the drive.
Yeah, he uses the drive. I don't have to physically load all of his comics.
Anyways.
You're not married to him either.
See? Husbandly duties.
Also true.
These are your husbandly duties. You should be doing them.
Remember, everyone married out there, tablet duties are part of your vows now.
So yeah, I started reading that, and then I got through like the first 4 or 5 issues or whatever it was, and I was like, oh, hey, there's a complete graphic here, and then finished up the other like 3 or 4 on that. It gave me big like 70s comic vibes. There wasn't the as many like thought bubbles, but there was a lot of, it read a lot like a script from like Adam West Batman, where every time they spoke to someone, they had to say their name or call them by name, like.
Right.
At least he doesn't have like a dozen titles like Danny Rand.
Yeah.
Because every time Danny Rand introduces himself, he's like, hi, I'm Danny Rand, the immortal Iron Fist, the defender of Kunlun, destroyer of the hand. How are you?
I was okay with that though, given that character. Plus, it was video, so I didn't actually have to read that.
True.
I didn't have to put my eyeballs through that. The plot was pretty good. The storyline I enjoyed. It was something that was completely different. I did have the thought that was stuck in my head for a second. I was like, so this is the comic. We went from 5 deadly weapons to 10 rings. Did we just have to double it because it was a movie? Like everything's bigger in the movies?
No, 10 Rings is actually a previous thing, but it's actually under the Mandarin, which
Sure.
Marvel is desperately trying to get away from because, as they made fun of in the movie, he's named after an orange, which was a very 70s, which was only a replacement for Fu Manchu. The history of the racism and especially the Asian racism in comic books is just
and that comes out of the pulp history that predates comics, right? Or that sort of parallels the early growth of comics. This whole Fu Manchu thing was from pulp novels,
right?
And yeah, it's ridiculous.
So to go from the comics, let's dive into the movie because I know we all have a lot of things to say about it. Recently rewatched. Dan, what did you pick up on this rewatch?
What did I pick up on the rewatch? That's a good question. I mean, I find that I am, for one thing, I'm relatively uncritical of when it comes to MCU movies. I don't pay attention to all the things that make no sense. I recognize them, but I enjoy the movies so much that I don't care. One thing that I definitely loved about this movie was that I cannot get enough of Michelle Yeoh.
Absolutely.
And I can't get enough of Michelle Yeoh and Tony Leung together. Leung, and the fact that because I don't know, I've watched a lot of Hong Kong films with them in it, and just I love them to pieces, and they were so good in this. I mean, they were. I mean, Michelle Yeoh especially is just a force of nature. She's so great. I don't know. I recently watched Everything Everywhere.
Everything Everywhere All at
so
Once.
good.
What a great movie.
Yeah.
Have not seen it yet,
and
but it's
she's
on my
just
list.
so good. So I picked up on that, and one thing about having them in it is that it makes the martial arts, the kung fu in the movie seem that much more like authentic, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not just choreographed, made up garbage. It's like, oh, okay, they have actual people choreographing this in the proper way, and that I think makes me enjoy things a lot more. I just, it seems much more real to me when they do that, when they have like actual people who know what they're doing.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, well, and not taking anything away from Simu Liu, who
he did a
oh my
job.
God, what a great, I don't even give a damn that he's Marvel or not. I mean, that's a bonus for me because I'm a comic book nerd, but this was just a fun movie. And his, you could tell that he was doing his own stunts and that he actually knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And holy shit.
Yeah.
But Jen, what'd you pick up this time around?
Well, again, it's same. I really appreciate, and for those of you who have never heard this podcast before, I am an action movie junkie, and I specifically like martial arts movies. One of my favorites to this day is Tony Jaa. Muay Thai, On Bak, just incredible stunt work. And so I really appreciated the fact that they did take the care to really do fight choreography well. And you can tell that it's people who knew what they were doing. And it wasn't just, random and a nod to martial arts, but,
Right. It was the real thing.
Right. Yeah.
Very well.
And I think upon rewatching, I also appreciate that they took something that was very fantastical, that was very, Tao Lung was obviously fantasy, but they did it in such a way that it was more like, it was like the first time you watched Jurassic Park. Like, this is just not possible, but it's so real, you know?
Yeah.
That it just felt like, yes, everyone's in wonder and awe, but it's just like nature. It's just there. And I think they did a good job with that. They made it special, but not so out there fantasy that it had a feeling of complete disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
Fair?
I am gonna step out and say I'm probably the only one here that wasn't really all that interested in this movie. And it's hard for me to put a finger on what it was I didn't like about it, because I agree with everything everybody was saying. The martial arts were great. The cinematography was excellent. The storyline, maybe it was the storyline. I'm not, we have just, another kind of semi-orphan. I don't know if that's what did it for me or what. But there's just something about the way everything came together was just like the last, I rewatched this on, I think it was Tuesday. And I was nosing my phone most of the time. I'd look up and half the movie was over and I didn't even really care. Like, I wasn't bothering to go back and rewind it and be like, oh, I should really pay more attention to this. It just, I don't know. And even the first time I watched it, I didn't really have any super excitement for it. I could analyze it and look at it and be like, this is all good stuff, but I just, for some reason, just did not really care.
Which, it's going to hit different people differently.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, not every movie is for everybody, and usually I love the martial arts stuff, the Asian culture stuff. I was one of the few people that actually really enjoyed Iron Fist from the Defenders, and this, for some reason, I don't know, I just couldn't get into it.
Well, one of the things that we touched on earlier was the presence of a lot of martial arts actors that made an appearance in here. I mean, I don't think anybody can argue that Michelle Yeoh the last 4 years has just been killing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a
Crazy Rich Asian. She was on Star Trek Discovery. She's in Gunpowder Milkshake, Shang Chi, Everything Everywhere All at Once. She's gonna be in all the next Avatar movies. Just killing it. And my connection to martial arts movies is It's way more American. So Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is probably the one that I most know. Other than like the Jackie Chan Rumble in the Bronx and all of those movies. But obviously Michelle Yeoh's big American debut was kind of it's where she became a name, was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And I saw a lot of parallels between that and this, especially in the way they structured the fight scenes, which was smart, I thought, because you can get the people like Dan, like you and Jenn, that are martial art movie fanatics that have watched all of these other the actual foreign films, but then you get the aspects that people can identify with here in the United States in the martial arts movies that have come since, or the ones that actually hit here that aren't just gun fu, which tends to be more of an American lean towards that instead of like martial arts.
Although don't down gun fu too much, because John Woo is one of my favorite film directors, and Tony Leung was in one or two of my favorites of his. So there's definitely a lot to be said for gun fu. Just don't gun fu, man.
Absolutely. No. One of the only Korean movies that I have watched is Infernal Affairs, which was the inspiration for Martin Scorsese to make The Departed. And I watched that, and there's some good gun fu in that one, and so that's my little crack in. But I have made kind of a pledge that I want to go back and I want to watch a lot of these. So like Ip Man and Ip Man
was great.
Yeah. A lot. Well, and I want to go actually all the way back to Kurosawa, so I want to sit down and watch Seven Samurai. And I was telling Jenn the other night, my dad was big into some of them, but he was more of a Shogun person. So once a year we would sit down and spend 4 hours watching Shogun.
Shogun, the book, actually, is where I got my extensive knowledge of the Japanese language. So,
cool.
Everything I know of Japanese comes from that, which is kind of sad.
But by way of Michelle Yeoh, I wanted to bring in the structure of this movie, which even as a novice, this movie is structured as I was corrected. I will not call it a kung fu movie. It's a martial arts movie.
Right.
And even while we watched it this time, I noticed, and I paid special attention, the words kung fu are only said once in this movie. It's at the very end when they're in the restaurant, and it's said by Katie. But they never refer to anything as kung fu other than that one line, which is kind of interesting to me. But the structure of this is what I understand a typical martial arts foreign movie to be structured as. The action happens on the beats, the quest, you end with a gigantic martial arts scene, with chaos.
Set piece.
Right, with chaos swirling around son and father. And I wanted you and Jenn to chime in on that, and Bear too, if you, as a general action movie junkie. What did you think of the beats of this? Because I found it made me more interested in like martial arts movies.
So, I mean, I think that and this is something that I think the Marvel Studios does well anyway, is they jump right to the action, right? I mean, every and the opening beat, if you will, the opening fight scene in the bus is one of the most I mean, it's
Gorgeous.
just so amazingly done. And so they jump right into it, and then every time after that Shang-Chi has to fight, it's always like I'm trying to think of the word. It's on point, right? It's never contrived. It's never like, oh, now we have to throw in a fight scene.
Right. Well, because they've already established that in the beginning, because the bus scene happens about 15 to 20 minutes in the movie, and you've already established kind of the you've taken the 3 to 5 minutes for the story of the 10 rings just to bring you up to speed, but then you spend 10 minutes with Shang-Chi just living his life,
Right.
and like he seems like a normal Gen Z slacker dude, with his friend who, credit, is not a love interest, even though you're like in a typical movie, you'd be like, by the end of this, they're going to be.
It's hard to say by the end of it exactly where their relationship is going. I will say that you can't say one way or the other. But yeah, no. The great thing about I think one of my favorite points certainly in the bus scene and possibly in the movie is the reveal, right?
Yes,
because he's just Sean and he's just this guy, but as soon as there's trouble, he takes a stance and he's ready.
Well, and it's Katie. It's when they hit Katie.
Says, what the fuck? Right.
Yeah. But it's Katie who says, does he look like he can fight? And then they slap Katie. And that's when Sean's like,
triggers it.
All right, let's go.
It's on.
Yeah.
We're going to do this.
Game on, motherfuckers.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I just thought that's actually a pretty common trope in a lot of the Hong Kong martial arts movies too. Is the guy just trying to be who he is, and somebody starts roughing and messing with him, and boom, suddenly he's he's punching their lights out in a very stylized manner.
Yeah.
That's also kind of it's something that's been brought into modern action movies more recently. Well, I've just for my own role-playing game sake have started to develop a scenario for Savage World that be like your action movie world where all of these are linked. So like John Wick, Atomic Blonde, Salt, Nobody, like a lot of these different modern action movies. But we've been watching a lot of action movies to try and get.
I know, it's so bad.
More data.
You're making me watch action movies.
I know.
Oh man, I wish I was in your house.
Right?
I was in your house.
I have a list of recommendations for you now.
Oh yeah,
Please send me your list.
Yeah, we found some really excellent movies that they just passed us by, and there's some really good ones out there that we can send on to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I'm the only one in my house who watches them.
Oh my gosh, there are some really, really good ones.
Sometimes I can get when he's home. Sometimes I can get David to watch them. But
the ones that I found that not a lot of people have heard of, Nobody. If you haven't seen that,
that
fantastic.
One is so
oh,
good.
I heard about that. Who's in that? What's the name? That's Odenkirk?
Yes. Bob Odenkirk.
Bob Odenkirk, right, which surprises me because he's
Oh my God. Hotel Artemis, if you haven't seen that.
Oh, I don't know that one.
It fits directly into
Jodie
the John
Foster.
Wick universe.
It's Jodie Foster.
And Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kate was really good.
Don't know that.
Salt was an Angelina Jolie movie from a few years ago.
Jolie. I never saw it, but I heard of it.
And I don't like Angelina Jolie, and I love that movie.
That movie was really good.
Yeah. Peppermint.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah. Surprisingly fits into this movie, and if it passed you by, I wouldn't blame you, but Nick Cage says it's one of the movies. It's in his top 3 movies he's ever made. It's called Pig. And
I still have to watch that one.
Holy shit.
I wouldn't say that that's so much of an action movie, but it's really worth watching.
No, it's
that
the
just
tension.
came out like last year, right?
Yes.
A couple of years ago. Yeah.
A couple years ago.
It's the tension of that world.
Yeah.
American Ultra.
American Ultra is amazing.
Yeah.
I have heard of it. Never got a chance to watch it.
But... 6 Underground was the most recent.
I like that one.
Oh no, The Protege.
The Protege. That one was really good.
The Protege is Samuel L. Jackson. Who else is in that? I'm blanking.
He was Bullseye.
Yes.
The Irish actor.
Farrell.
Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell, right?
Super
Interesting.
good.
Interesting. Well, send me the list because
I will.
I want to now. See, I get inspired to announce these. We're going to have a movie day. We're going to have a movie day, but nobody ever. I'm terrible about scheduling things, so it never happens. I've been planning for years to have a Thin Man movie festival.
Oh, I want to do that. Let's do that.
I'm in.
Yeah, but it's never happened because I suck at planning.
Maybe the next time
I want to have an action movie day.
Yeah, next time we're coming out to Chicago for no reason. We'll
please,
plan
please
an action movie day. Yeah, that'll be fantastic.
Then it becomes you going to Chicago for a reason.
Well, yes, we need a reason. That's true.
No other reason.
Right,
but
right.
Really, do you need another reason?
No, I'm happy to rewatch all of those movies and watch other people's reactions to them.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed Gunpowder Milkshake, for instance, just as one that came out recently. And as much as I thought it was likely to be idiotic, the John Wick series turned into
so good.
Just something really amazing. In part because of the lore, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing is this world that I'm kind of building in. I threw in Fast and Furious because as somebody who has watched every single one of them except for Tokyo Drift, which close enough. Those movies are goddamn ridiculous, but they fit perfectly into a ridiculous action movie world.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So the physics, the logistics, the world all makes sense. If you, or lack of. It took till the 5th movie for Jenn to not be able to take it anymore, and at one scene jumped off the couch, pointed at the television screen, and yelled, "Physics!"
No.
Bad physics.
There are laws that you cannot break.
That's a series that I have not watched. I watched the spin-off one with Idris Elba and
that
was good.
Hobbs and Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw, which I thought was great. It was just so much fun. And it's again, that's a series that I want to go back and watch and just have not, because I'm a completist, so I have to be able to watch them in order from 1 to 73
Don't
or
watch
however
the
many
third
there are
one
to.
seriously.
3's going to be rough.
It's rough.
We watched just the cinema sins on it, and that was bad enough. So, Jenn, thoughts on the structure?
Back to Shang Chi.
Yeah,
back to the movie.
The
movie we were talking
structure
about.
Of the movie?
Of Shang-Chi. Yeah, because we were talking about it as we were watching it, and just the beats were very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know where you're going with that.
Did you ever feel yourself pulled out of the movie? I mean, I thought about this. I thought walking into the club and Wong and Abomination are having a fight. Somehow they made a club that makes that just like, oh yeah, of course this is happening.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know you asked Jenn this, but there was 2 things that kind of pulled me out of the Shang-Chi part of the universe. That was one of them, seeing Wong in there, even though they made it work. Ultimately, the first glimpse when you realize, oh wait, that's Wong and the Abomination fighting. The second one was when they brought Ben Kingsley back in and his little furry pal, Morris.
Morris.
Little furry pal was kind of entertaining, I thought.
Yeah.
It was entertaining, but it's like, oh, do we need a cute mascot toy tie-in here?
You're watching Disney.
I know. And it was a, I guess in the end it turned into a kind of cute tension reliever in some respects.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, they introduced the whole Ben Kingsley as the fake Mandarin in Iron Man, whatever. And that three, right?
No,
72. And
yes, 3. It was 3.
And so, and they had and that's when they introduced the 10 rings, right? Mm-hmm. And so it kind of made sense to have him in there, especially if you saw the short where they take him out of prison.
Yeah.
And so it's nice that, oh, he's not dead after all, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, does he need to be here? Did he add anything to the movie? And I'm still not 100% sure he did.
Right, because you already have Awkwafina as the comedic relief.
Right, and Trevor really didn't do anything except translate for Morris. I mean, I mean, it seemed like, okay, we need to get him back in to tie this into what we've done previously in the MCU. But other than that, I don't think his character served much of a purpose.
I would agree with that.
And let me ask, because I just thought of this, and movie guy Barry, you can jump in on this. Would it have been as grating or as is pulling you out if Trevor had been played by a lesser known actor than Ben fucking Kingsley?
Oh no, I think the fact that it was would it have been less likely to pull me out? It would have been more jarring, let's say.
I agree. I think it would have been more jarring, and I think
because
it
it's
would
like,
be
why do we
less
need to see this
entertaining.
guy? What's
Yeah,
that?
it would be less entertaining.
Right.
More
Well,
jarring,
Like,
less entertaining, because Sir Ben Kingsley.
Right.
Right. And it's like, why do we need to see this guy again? But at least when it's Ben Kingsley, it's like, oh, okay, they wanted to get Ben Kingsley again because he's Ben Kingsley. And that makes sense.
No, I personally think that, honestly, like, I love Ben Kingsley in it. I think he was perfect for the role.
Yep.
How you put the starving artist, the starving actor in there, and it's just like, I was just, and he's just kind of like, I'm just a hippie, and I happened along, and they said they needed this part for an acting. Of course, I'm a great actor. You can ask my mother. And he's just a con man, really. And it was the perfect, role within a role for this actor.
Really well. I don't know that it was necessary for the story, but he did it really well.
No, I doubt it. But actually, now the more we sit here and talk about it, I think I realized what made this movie like less interesting for me is I think it was the fact that the difference between everything that's going on in like present day stuff as opposed to everything that's flashbacks could have almost been two different movies.
Absolutely.
Like they were so like everything between those scenes was so disparate that I just that pulled me out of everything. Like now that I'm looking back on the last time I watched it, I was paying attention every time we actually had Shang Chi and Awkwafina running around doing crazy stuff. Yeah, Wong pops up with Abomination. I took all that in stride. I'm like, okay, we're just rolling in the current universe. That's how this works. And then suddenly we're back in the flashbacks and the historical parts, and it's just like, this is just dull, I think, by comparison.
Okay, so I have a different view of those flashbacks, which is those flashbacks were a mechanism for, well, first of all, there were some reveals in it, right? There were reveals about how she died, how his mother died, and how, what all happened. But also, it's all going into what made Shang-Chi's father the way he is. And so what it did was it teased a potential redemption, right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things were explaining why he was so damaged, why he was the way he was. The fact that at some point he had given up the 10 rings so that he could have a family, and then that was taken from him, and that twisted him. But it also definitely teased the sort of, I mean, it's a very Marvel redemption, right? At the very end, where he sort of says, okay, yeah, I screwed this up, and now I'm going to let you go and do the heroic thing you need to save the world, and then I'm going to die as a result.
Right.
Sure.
Well, or I died before.
Well, he died.
Before the
he
actual
died
heroic
to
thing, yeah.
give up the rings, right? He basically said to Shang-Chi, go and fix this.
Right. Yeah.
And so I mean, I think all those flashbacks served to build into the relationship between Shang-Chi and his father, and the potential redemption arc that ultimately kind of happened.
So I see it similarly, but I added a different level now that I'm thinking about it and analyzing. From the beginning, we start with the 10 Rings, which is a fantastical story.
Sure.
Then we go to modern day. We spend time with Sean, and he's going through his day-to-day life, and it's modern, and it's our modern MCU, because there's, Iron Man references, and there's, all this other stuff.
Sure.
Busting happens. Okay, something's going on. Now Sean has to explain the rest of the story to Katie. We go back because now it's fantastic. We basically go back. It's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's like you said, it's a totally different movie.
Yeah.
It's a different tone, but importantly to me, it is foreign action martial arts movie versus modern action movie. And both exist within the same movie. I think that's actually genius. Because eventually you're getting to the end spectacle, which is a combination of both.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
I get that. And I guess it's somewhere in my mind, like, those are two, even though the modern action movie had several, the modern parts had several of your typical, like Kurosawa style action movie beats, because we've got the training montage, we've got the fight scenes, we've got the redemption arc in there a little bit, we've got all those buildups. We've just got a more modern take on them. I think somewhere between the two, like, different halves of my brain, they just didn't want to cross.
Right.
And I was like, I enjoy these for being this, and I enjoy these for being this, and there the two shall meet.
You got chocolate in my peanut butter.
Right, and I wasn't down with the chocolate and the peanut butter at that point in time. I usually kept my chocolate and my peanut butter separate. So.
Right. Nope, totally understood. When we saw this in the theater, we walked out, and it took me a little while to kind of get my grips on how I felt about it. Because again, I don't have that martial arts movie background, but I identified that there was something in there that I did not resonate with. And as we've watched more of these modern action movies, I've seen a lot more elements of that. And this was, because the MCU is an ever evolving, everything's got to be something, right? So Ant-Man is a heist movie.
Sure.
And Guardians of the Galaxy is a space opera. Yep. And Captain America has been a war movie, then a spy movie. This was Marvel's martial arts movie. And I found it to be, surprisingly, as the more I look at it, a celebration of martial arts cinema in the history of it. Because, having Michelle Yeoh and Tony Liu and all these other well-known, well-established Asian martial arts artists in there, but then also introducing Simu Liu, who actually had pestered people on Twitter to make him Shang Chi.
Nice.
And then you bring in Awkwafina, who is one of the best-known American Asian comedians. Just the combination of all those things is not only a celebration of Asian culture, but specifically a celebration of Asian cinema. You have like half the cast of Crazy Rich Asians in this movie.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what I fucking loved about it.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So if Guardians of the Galaxy is a space opera and Shang-Chi is a celebration of Asian cinema and so on and so forth, and what the ever-living fuck was Eternals?
Regrettable.
Right?
A terrible, terrible error.
What's the author? My dad reads his stuff. What's the author that all of his books like starts with a crack in the earth at 10,000 BC, and somehow that crack in the earth somehow affects things in his? I want to say Robert Jordan, but I don't think that's right.
No, Robert Jordan was
Real Time. No. Anyway, it's one of those. Like, it's a dad book, is what Eternals is.
Michael Crichton?
Yeah, Michael Crichton.
Michael
is another,
Crichton.
yeah, kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because yes, this was I guess this was Marvel's Asian cinema tribute / homage, but at the same time, it was very much an American action, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it had the big the almost Deus Ex Machina of the dragons fighting, at the end. Although it didn't. I mean, it was nice that was not the key to winning.
Right.
Was the dragon. I mean, it helped, right? But
the dragon did need to be saved.
Right.
And then you have your big Katie moment in that,
Yes.
which is awesome. Yeah.
I also felt a lot of anime beats.
Absolutely.
The movie too, because you always have the great big ugly monster at the end. Like 90% of anime out there, it's always just going further and further and further until you got the giant monster at the end.
Razor Fist is 1000% an anime character.
Right.
See, and I'm not an anime guy, so I
Yeah,
wouldn't
I'm not either.
know that.
Well, you know more about it than
It's
a
true.
non-anime guy.
Sure.
that is true. But I kept, I mean, when I was rewatching it, I kept looking at Razor Fist, and I know he's not, but he reminded me a lot of Wes Chatham, who played Amos on The Expanse. I don't know if you
Haven't
watched
seen
The
it.
Expanse, but it's just a physical resemblance.
Well,
But-
Jen kept saying that she had seen him in something, and I looked up. He has not been in a lot.
No, he reminds me of another actor, and I don't know. I can't.
See,
put my
that's the
finger
thing.
on
He
who it is.
reminded me of Wes Chatham from The Expanse, but yeah, no, he's it was definitely a very, for me at least, it was definitely a very Marvel moment when he, the giant machete comes out of his forearm.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's a very comic book kind of moment.
Very.
And the fact that it cuts through everything like it's a hot knife through butter is definitely a comic book concept. That
So did you see the Creed movies? Creed.
No, I did not.
Okay, because he plays Victor Drago in the newer. He plays Drago's son in the new Creed
I did
movies.
not see them.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm going to go around to everybody, and I'm going to ask what you thought of Razor. Then, I'm going to tell you about a news article that just came out today that I read at breakfast.
Okay.
And see if it changes your mind on Razor Fist. So, we've heard a little bit from you, Dan, but generally the character, because you were just saying, did Trevor really need to be in there? Did Razor Fist really need to be in there?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Razor Fist was there for I don't want to speculate, but it's
Yeah.
like he's the non-Asian fighter tough guy, right? In this very Asian martial arts approach, he's if you go back to even like Enter the Dragon, right? With Bruce
Right.
Lee, there's always someone from America or Europe or something who has a different fighting style.
Wasn't that
and
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Yes, Kareem
Yeah.
Abdul-Jabbar, exactly.
It was.
And Chuck Norris, and is there in part to be foiled by the martial arts, but also in this case, I think he was not just that, right? He was as much as a henchman can be. He was a developed henchman, and then they gave him the car, the Razor Fist vehicle, which was kind of a little bit of comic relief, right? This guy owns this car, of course he does, and he's got his name painted on the side of the car, or his nickname, I guess.
Right.
He's probably not
on the
born.
license, he's got a
Razor Fist
vanity
Johnson.
plate. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Razor Fist.
Yeah.
Razor
Razor
Fist
Fist
Jones over
Johnson.
here.
I don't think he
Dabby with the
took
yam
me
bag.
out of the film, though. He didn't take me out of the film. I thought he fit into that role of the non-Asian guy involved in the martial arts competition kind of sequence or scenario.
Jen?
Yeah, the first time we saw the movie, I kind of felt like, why is this dude here? What is the point of this dude? Why is he the number, the lieutenant, the top dude?
The Odd Job.
Why is he
The Odd
here?
Job.
Right? He is that job.
For him to, in the middle of battle to be like, oh, hey, no, you guys are right, I'm going to fight with you. But the second time I watched it, there was a little more, I hesitate to say the word nuance to the character. But you get the sense that that one of the reasons that he may have been where he was maybe because of fighting with this dude, or he lost his hand and was given this thing, and so that's why his loyalties were in that direction. But then fighting with the villagers back to where he but that's not what you're asking.
but unlike other henchmen, right? There's a hint that there is a backstory there.
Right. Well, and the fact that all of the guys, when he's like, okay, change of plans, we're now fighting with them against these things, and everyone listened to him.
Well, it's kind of, he was also like the second lieutenant, the first lieutenant being the person in the kabuki mask.
Right.
And
Mask, yeah.
the first person that's taken by the dragons and has their soul sucked out is the first lieutenant.
Is that guy,
Yeah.
Which I didn't notice until the second watch through. So I was like, where does this guy go? And I'm like,
right, so he got a field promotion. So
Yes.
Razorfist got a field promotion, and then he got to make that decision.
Right.
When
Fair.
he realized that, maybe we're, maybe we need to fight these bad things first.
Are we the baddies?
I don't think he ever really got to that point.
No.
But he was working for the dad, and then he said, well, wait, if we keep doing if we keep going down that path, we're all dead. So
right.
maybe we should readjust.
I personally think that Razor Fist that's where I actually came up with the idea that, this has got some anime beats to it, is because he is literally, I can picture him literally being like snipped straight out of things like,
Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist, or not Outlaw Star, Trigun, or even something like Cowboy Bebop. Like, he's totally just like, I could cut him out of one of those animes and paste him into this movie, and he fits perfectly.
Right.
Which is also the same way that I feel about, having Wong and Abomination in there. It's just like, listen, this is a big enough universe where just random shit happens, and the characters, it's just stuff that's in, the background for them. It's kind of, it ties things together, but it's not really part of the overall plot.
I will say, for fans of this show, if you have not watched She-Hulk yet, as we're recording this, it's still coming out weekly. Your payoff to Wong and Abomination happens in the She-Hulk show.
See, I've only watched the first episode. So.
It's so
With two N's and a Y, and it's not where you think.
Wongers! So the thing that I read today is that there were 2 deleted scenes for Shang-Chi that they're just about to release. And the first one happens at dinner. After they arrive at the compound, they're all having dinner. Originally, Razor Fist is at the table with them having dinner.
Tell me he cuts.
And him and Sean,
something.
I don't know. I didn't watch
You
it.
haven't watched him yet? Okay.
No. This is just text that I read.
Oh.
Sean and him get into it, and the dad basically says, "You two need to get along," and that's the first hint. And then you get his backstory, which is that he was without an arm, and Tony Lu's character found him, or Long. His character found him, brought him in and adopted him. So he is Sean's adoptive brother.
Okay.
So there's a lot more kind of background. And it also explains, his devotion and the fact that another child in that fight turned on the dad. Which
right, he was
I think,
holdout then.
Yes, I think it adds a lot more interesting elements to that character. I also understand why they cut it out, because
sure. Sure. I think that, sad to say, it would be confusing for American audiences.
Right.
It would, I think.
But so does that change your feelings on Razor Fist?
No.
No. If anything, it kind of confirms in some ways what I thought about Razor Fist, which is that he has a backstory. There's something there.
Yeah.
That we just don't know. And it's not a backstory that is sufficient to create a whole,
right.
Obviously a whole movie, but obviously not even a whole scene about. But I could see that if they had like the time, they could have put in the flashback to his background. And it would not have been completely out of sync with the rest of the movie.
I think it's a good deleted scene.
Yeah.
It falls perfectly in that realm of, this is a fun little added.
Okay.
It's definitely something they should have filmed. But
but I think that there's good reason for them cutting it, because both of his legitimate children, or not legitimate, but his own children,
his actual children,
would think about how much further that would ostracize them from their parent if he had taken the time to adopt this other person
and then sent him to kill him.
Right. And that,
right. Both his children had run away.
Right.
And he let them, because he says he's always known where they were.
Right.
Right.
He wanted to see
but he also,
what they made of themselves.
Right.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting that because there's definitely a feeling in the movie that he's kind of a throwaway mini boss.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would have been interesting if they had left in the things that made him a little more than that.
It does give motivation, a lot more motivation to the bus fight, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Why he's coming at Sean as
hard
big
as he
and
was.
bad
So
as
hard,
he is.
right?
Because everything he wants, Sean has and still has.
Yeah.
Right,
Even
and
though
is
has-
entitled to, right?
Right.
throwing it away. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that.
But it makes me want to know more about the Kabuki mask dude.
Yeah.
Like, why was he the number one
Yeah.
lieutenant? What?
Not Kabuki. What was the thing that you said, Dan?
I didn't say
Not
anything.
not Kabuki mask. Was it a different type of mask?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think
Sorry.
you made that up. I think you
I
hallucinated
did.
that.
I probably did.
Um,
Although I would like to see from the creator of Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw is Shang Chi's and Guardians of the Galaxy's Razor Fist and just a space buddy cop.
Oh.
yeah, that would work.
They have some contract in their, or the clause in their contract that they have to hit each other the exact same amount of times, which was a clause that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Vin Diesel had in there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Vin Diesel, behind the scenes, if you get into Fast and Furious,
He's a little
he's a
bitch.
fucking lunatic. He's like, I made this franchise, and everybody else comes in and they're more famous than me. We're like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well-
they are.
Which is why Jason Statham and The Rock are no longer in the main Fast and Furious, because they got
Because
more famous.
they
than-
outshadowed
Yes.
they overshadowed him.
Yes.
Interesting. Upstaged.
And Helen Mirren.
Well, Helen Mirren is still in. She was in the last one. Helen Mirren insisted, watched up to 5, and then insisted she was in Fast and the Furious. And people went, are you going to tell Helen Mirren no?
Yeah, really. Dame Helen Mirren.
Right? Jen's
Wow.
who Jen wants to be when she grows up.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
I got to tell you though. I mean, not that we want to go off on a tangent about Helen Mirren, but
I mean, we've gone off on a tangent about just about everything else.
that's true. I have to say, Helen Mirren was one of the great actors who abased themselves to be part of Bob Guccione's Caligula.
It's true.
And I find that is a disappointing black mark on several actors' sheets. John
yeah,
Hill.
but at the same time, she's like I've seen interviews with Shocks about it. She's like, yeah, and moving on.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
She's
That's
like,
true.
yeah.
It's just a job.
She's also done interviews where she's like, I like to fuck.
I guess
Smile.
that makes sense.
So back to Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
Any other
That's the first time we've gone, off on such a tangent that we went as far as Caligula, but we're gonna chalk that one
maybe
up
the
right
whiskey
here.
talking. Maybe the
I
whiskey
mean,
So I think that it's interesting to me that the whole Ten Rings story and the whole backstory of Shang-Chi and his father and his history is loosely parallel to, but very different from what's in the comic books.
Yes.
And I kind of have this worry that despite the fact that at the end of Shang-Chi there's a thing that says the Ten Rings will return, I feel like I don't know what they plan to do with it next, and I'm concerned that they don't really have an idea, and that it may just be one of those things that fades into obscurity and nothingness.
Well,
or they'll give them to the Eternals to maybe boost up both series.
No.
Yeah, because I mean, I thought it would be great to see another Shang-Chi movie.
I think
there
will
is
be.
there is
Yeah.
there is a second
I
one
know
that's
there
already
is,
been
but-
confirmed. But
Okay, good.
so likely that will be the furthering of the Ten Rings.
Well, and I'm curious to see how they do it because they had, was it at the end they had Bruce and
Oh yeah, they had the people
Bruce
looking
and
at the
and
Wong
Carol
and Captain
Danvers
Marvel.
and
looking at the
Wong
rings, yeah.
looking at the
Captain
rings.
Marvel.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel's like, I gotta go get my number from Bruce. Bruce is like, she
Bruce
does
says,
this
I
all
don't
the
have
time.
her
I
number."
don't have her number.
Right. I mean, I think that would be great. I'm wondering if they really, and maybe they do. If they're already filming, that would be great. Where they're going to take that story and how they're going to tie it into the rest of the MCU, especially if Carol Danvers.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I'm pretty sure that they're going, because the 10 rings, the finger rings, the Mandarin had were alien tech, and
Right.
I think that that's where they're going. Is that the rings,
which would be great.
are alien.
Which would be great.
Oh, maybe they're from
Although I
Sakara.
have to say, I'm really looking forward to Captain Marvel meeting Ms. Marvel.
Yes, in the Marvels.
In the Marvels, which I think, I see. This is what I mean when I'm so uncritical about Marvel MCU. I just love all of it.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I'm like, oh yeah, that could be a flaw if I fucking cared.
Right, exactly. Exactly. People are coming up with like, oh, but this is bad and this is not the way things should have been, and I'm like, no, this is exactly what it is.
And
This
how
is
many
the
movies
MCU,
have you made?
and I love it
Right.
for this reason.
She-Hulk shouldn't break the fourth wall. Yes, she fucking should. 'Cause she...
Yeah. So
Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us once again. This was fun, and yes, we got to make that action movie day happen.
I intend to, but of course, intentions really
Right.
get me only so far.
Well, and if you check your
I saw that
Facebook
something
Messenger,
popped in. Yes.
there's what
There's a
I have
list.
watched that is in world, and what I need to watch or rewatch to see if it belongs. So that's
I'm looking to see which ones of these I've seen. I've seen John Wick, Atomic Blonde, blah blah blah. Yeah, I've seen several of them and missed several others.
I still, for my money, all I want is either like a teaser trailer or like an end credits scene where we've got this action movie thing set up, and you've got, Jason Bourne gets into a fight with a dude, takes him out, starts rifling through his pockets, finds a John Wick coin.
Right.
Yep.
Right. That would be awesome.
And then just, pulls it out. He's got it in his hand. The camera zooms in on the coin in his hand. Fade out. Done. All right.
Yep.
I'm in.
I see you've got Hannah on this list. I love that film.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the TV show?
No.
Oh my God, it was really good. It was like, so it was by the same guy, and it's like, what would this guy do if he had, instead of having a 2-hour movie, had a TV series?
Oh, cool.
And it's really good. And the girl they got playing Hannah is excellent. The one thing that's on here, you've got Hard Boiled, but you don't have The Killer. Speaking of John Wick movies,
I will add that.
Chow Yun-Fat and Tony Leung, and it's solid. Gun Fu, John Woo.
Well, feel free to respond with more movies to add to that list, because
Yeah,
Jen
if I
hates
have
it
any.
that we're
I
gonna
mean, there's a
watch
lot
more.
on here I want to see, so I will definitely. This is too much for one day. We have to have like a week.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, we'll go through what you have not seen, because I will rewatch any of these. They were joy to watch.
Even what I have not seen is like a week here. At least 2 or 3 days. I'll say that. But I'm looking forward to trying to find watching them. Cool.
Well, everyone, please tune in 2 weeks when we will be doing Harley Quinn, the HBO Max cartoon, and one of Jen's passions.
Oh, I love that cartoon.
It's so good.
Yeah, well, Ron Funches as King
Shark.
But until then, take it away, Vandello.
Come with me, I'll tell a story that you might have heard before. Graphically novel, but the same old trouble. Villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same. Do 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 do. Come at me, and I'll show you something you ain't never seen before. Right or wrong, or can't we all just get along? My mask is no different than yours. pretty pictures on the screen, but nothing's ever as it seems.
Nothing's ever as it seems.
Do 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 do. Hero or villain, loved or hated by millions. Maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right, but you don't want to see